Hello and welcome to another beautiful episode of Cut Content. And this week we will be talking about the beautiful things left out from the dark, disgusting universe that is Dark Souls. Just a heads up, I won't be talking about Demon Souls or Bloodborne in this video, just the three main Dark Souls games. So let's jump in and have some brutal fun. To begin, let's talk about some icons and items left out from the game that include this yellow soapstone, an armored hollow avatar used in orange guidance soapstone messages that was later replaced by the undead merchant icon. This icon can't actually be found in the game, but it was found in an early screenshot of the game here. The last icon is an unknown hourglass icon that has the same design theme that the player stat icons have. Some interesting items left out of the game include the Ring of Displacement that took damage for you but would eventually shatter. The Ring of Blind Ghosts made it so cursed ghosts could not find the player and kinda just roamed around aimlessly. And the last ring, the Ring of Condemnation, made it so you automatically counterattacked when the player was inflicted by substantial damage. Interestingly enough, there is also a fifth Lord Soul that hints at another big main boss in the game that was eventually cut, because this cannot be found in the game at all and has no description or name attached to it, so we have no clue what kind of boss that this item could have been equipped with. Two keys can also be found. One states that it opens the lift leading to New Londo ruins in the basement of Firelink Shrine, and the second is assumed to be a placeholder icon and was never actually going to be in the game. There's also an affidavit icon that seems to make it so you could leave a covenant without any backlash. A black eye orb can also be found in the file of the game that leads to some interesting effects. When used, you will invade the world of the traitor Shiva for a fight against her and her bodyguard. The orb still works if you glitch it in the game, but it can cause some unwanted effects with the real Shiva in-game, so I would probably advise against it. Though this does hint at a different take on the story and how the game would have went if this item was left in. Next on the list are some weapons and armor that include the Four Kings sword, the Cat o' Nine Tails, an unknown talisman, a spiky catch pole, and I know I'm gonna butcher this, a black swahinder. Whatever. It was supposed to be used by Chester. We also have the Elite Cleric set, Mage Smith set, Undead King Jar Eel set, which I'll talk about in a minute, and a Bear Armor set, because that's actually just pretty sweet. I was gonna make a joke, but bear armor is pretty cool. The coolest part is a unused boss for the New Londo ruins, called the Undead King Jar Eel. You would have had to defeat this boss as a trial in order to obtain the Key of the Seal from Ingward. And as I just mentioned, his armor set would have also been available for the player to wear, which looks pretty badass. On top of that, the Bed of Chaos also has crawling and jumping animations that hint at the fact that the boss fight was originally going to be much different than the horrible fight we all received. A few side enemies include the Claw Hollow, Brain Bug, the Demon Souls Crystal Lizard, a blue version of the Hellkite, and this unknown figure who looks like a giant with a pretty big mace to destroy you with. NPC-wise, there's also a young version of Beatrice, a prototype for Chester and Calumet, and an alternate version of Vamos. Now to start our Dark Souls 2 talk off, let's quickly go through the items in-game that were left out. These Shadow Claws, and all of these items that have no names to go with their pictures, so enjoy some pictures. Armor-wise, we have the all-powerful Barrel Armor. We also have Rosebeth's dress, Hunter's hat, Dispatcher's hood and robes, Mask of the Sealer, Crimson robe, gloves, and wrist cloth, this tattered cloth-looking thing, and a clean version of the all-on knight armor set. We also have 8 rings, the Illusory Ring of Vengeful that makes certain equipment invisible, the Illusory Ring of the Guilty that does the same thing as the last ring, the Ring of War that increased physical defense and was only used during network tests, and its image is now used for the Ivory Warrior rings. The last 5 rings don't have a description or name, but all resemble rings already in the game. A few enemies were also cut out from the game, including 3 different versions of the High Knight, one that has a great lance, another with a lance, and the last wearing an iron mask. On top of that, we also have a parasitized undead before it's completed into transformation. We also have 4 areas that were left out from the final game, and were probably cut very early into development just by looking at the state of them. And it was probably for a good thing because Dark Souls 2 is already confusing enough. We have the Sunken Throne, Underground Corridor, Altar of Prayer, and Cavern of the Gallant. 7 music tracks were also used in the network tests that were not heard in the final version of the game, so just take a nice quick listen to a few of them. Last we have my favorite Dark Souls, Dark Souls 3. But sadly there isn't anything super crazy about this game's deleted content, just a large list of items not used in the game, so let's get started. First we have 2 gestures titled Lord of Cinder and another titled Unmannered Bow. Next, the long list of armor starts. We have the Burial Knight set, Dinghy Hood, Footman set, Giant set, Grotto set, Heavy Knight set, Hexer set, Man Serpent Mask and Robes, Saint's Veil and Dress, Soldier's Hood, Thief Mask, and the Varangian set. Some items to be used would include Oozing Charm Berries, 1 yellow and 1 that's blue. The blue would protect from magic and fire, while the yellow would protect from dark and lightning. There were also 2 images of Molotov cocktails that weren't used, a Monastery Charm, Poison Kukuri, Rotten Pine Bundle, and a bridge key which description states, key to the inner part of the bridge, and a dungeon ground floor key that would unlock a single cell in the dungeon. There was also a Bright Bug, Dragon Chaser Ashes, Dragon Scale, Holy Remains, which is just an obtainable version of the item that teleports you to the High Lord Wolnir boss fight, an Iron Seal of the Wolf, Pendant, a Mask of Wax that you would have had to wear instead of dunking your head in the vat like you do in the final game, and a Silver Talisman. We also have a few rings. The rare Ring of Sacrifice from Dark Souls 1 was supposed to be in Dark Souls 3 as well. Alongside that, we also have a Ring of Hiding that makes you invisible to all enemies and invaders unless they get too close. The Ring of Sustained Energy would boost stamina and recovery as long as you don't stop attacking. Ring of Sustained Essence would recover FP with consecutive attacks. Ring of Sustained Fortune increased drop rate with successive attacks. Ring of Sustained Magic boosts spell damage as long as attacking persists. Ring of Sustained Might added extra damage with successive attacks, which was later reworked into Pontiff's Right Eye. Ring of Sustained Toughness boosts defense while attacking persists. And lastly, Yours Ring, which has no description. There was also supposed to be some really cool weapons and armor, including the Ancient Dragon Great Shield, Prince's Shield, Unknown Shield, Ancient Dragon Halberd, Dancer's Short Bow, Foot Soldier's Sword, 4 Knights Hammer, my favorite, the Golden Dual Swords, Hammer of the Giant Tree, Heavy 4-Pronged Plow, Lothric Scythe, Mannequin Saber, Missionary Axe, and the Sacred Beast Catalyst. The last thing I want to talk about are these 2 items, the Soul of a Wicked Spirit and the Soul of the Great Bat. These 2 items hint at 2 more bosses that were removed from the game. Sadly, there's nothing in the files of the game that can be found that hint at these bosses, where they might be or what they might have been like, besides the titles of these items themselves. If you have any theories on these bosses, let me know because I would have loved to known about them. They could always just be, you know, the next DLC bosses, but I think there was something more to this. Overall, Dark Souls has some pretty sweet cut content that I would have loved to see in the full games. But who knows, maybe we may see something in the possible Nintendo Switch Trilogy remaster. And that would be perfect for me because an HD Dark Souls 1 would be the coolest thing ever. Thanks again for watching, and I hope I'll see you all in the next episode. I would just like to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters, The Gameplank, Grizzly Gamer, Thomas Bethel, and Zero Master. If you want to support me, click the link on the screen or click one of the links to check out my other videos. It's totally up to you.